Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Loren Feldman. This week, in a special bonus episode, Greg Wittstock, founder of Aquascape, explains how he invented the backyard pond industry, how he improvised a business model, and how he almost lost it all. After failing at franchising, Wittstock decided to give away his pond building expertise and marketing to landscape contractors in what he calls a franchise system without a franchise fee. And it worked. Always candid to a fault, he recounts here how the business shot to $59 million in annual sales, why it then stagnated for 10 years, and what he ultimately figured out about social media marketing. Plus, he also explains why the first rule of customer service is don't give them what they ask for, give them what they want. Even in good times, owning and running a business can be a lonely pursuit. Our hope is that these weekly conversations will let owners know they are not alone in facing challenges. Same thing with our daily newsletter, the 21 Hats Morning Report, which highlights the most important news of the day for business owners and which you can subscribe to at 21hats.com. where you can also find transcripts of our podcast episodes and lots of other articles and interviews. This week's episode is titled, I Didn't Appreciate It Until I Almost Lost It. I want to welcome you, Greg Wittstock. It is so great to talk to you today. We go back a long time. I met you after the great Bo Burlingham did a cover story for you, about you, for Inc. magazine that I was fortunate enough to work on as well as an editor. We met soon thereafter. We did a couple of panel sessions at an Inc. 500 conference. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, absolutely. That was a great time, and I really enjoyed that entire experience with you and with Bo, and that was a very exciting time, and who knew that we were on the precipice of a disaster with 2008 coming a few years down the road from that.
A lot has happened since then, that's for sure. But before we get into some of that, and I do want to get into some of that, give me a snapshot. Where does Aquascape stand today? How big is the business? How do you describe what Aquascape does today?
Well, this started out of my passion for turtles, fish, and frogs. I built my first pond back in 1982 and made every possible problem with that. I went to the library because, of course, this is well before the age of the internet. And all of the books that told you to build ponds were from England and Japan. And they said to make it out of concrete. And my first pond made out of concrete leaked, turned green, and even my prized turtles migrated away, Loren. And that was the beginning of my odyssey. I was completely not dissuaded with my hobby. And after 7 years of ripping out and rebuilding my first pond, that's when neighbors and relatives started to come over and look at it. And one day, the UPS guy delivered a package to the front door. And I said, come around back. And I was in my yard mussing with my pond. And he said, I'd love to have one of these at my house. And I said, I can do that. And so back when I was a junior at Ohio State University, I started Aquascape up. I told my mom and dad all I needed was a strong back, a wheelbarrow, and a shovel. And I already had a strong back from playing football. And that winter, I got a wheelbarrow and a shovel beneath the Christmas tree. And in 1991, Aquascape was formed as a summertime fun job as I was going through college.
So initially, you were building the pools yourself. How long did that last?
That was the first 2 seasons. So 1991 and 1992, I had done a total of 17 water features in those 2 years. And then on August 2nd of 1992, 11 years before the article came out in Inc. magazine, that's when really my business took off because of an article that I had in the Chicago Tribune. I had hundreds of people calling, and I ended up selling 81 jobs. And that's when my fun summertime gig became my career. My dad came into the business, which was part of the Inc. magazine article because, that was a lot of family tension back then. The business just really exploded from there, resupplying other contractors to build water features. And that's through that, that infamous run from, 99 through 2002 with Inc. 500 recognition 4 years in a row. And then kind of prevailing with the 2003 article that I think to this day, Loren, I might be the only guy entrepreneur that's been on the cover of Inc. magazine with my shirt off, swimming with my fish in my pond.
That's probably a pretty good bet.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this or remember this, but they shot that in the summer, but they didn't like the lighting. And so they came back to shoot the same picture in October. And in Chicago in October, the water is not very warm. And so I sat in that water for an hour, freezing my you-know-what off. And after all was said and done, they used the original picture. And I'm like, that's just so typical.
You know what? I knew that story, except for we used the original
You
picture
use the
part.
original. I'm like, wow, so typical.
That is too funny, sort of. At some point, you shifted from being predominantly about making the pools to supplying people who make the pools. When did that happen?
Yes. So from 91 through 94, I was just building ponds for other people. Landscape contractors started subcontracting the pond guy out to build the ponds. And then they saw how I was doing it and they said, hey, we'd like to try this. Can we buy the products? And so I ended up getting a US patent at 24 in 1994 for my mechanical skimmer and biological filter for the ponds. And then in 1995, in April, I ended up mailing 26,000 catalogs to a rented list from Dun & Bradstreet. And I think that year I did $191,000 in mail order business and $424,000 of installs. But the writing was on the wall because the next year I did 1.9 million in mail order, and then it just took off from there.
And where are you today? What's your focus now?
The focus now is, we still build ponds. We like to say we're the only manufacturer of water feature equipment in the world that actually is out there every day. That's our R&D department building water features. Everybody else just makes a widget and says, buy it. Aquascape had a peak sales of 59 million back in 2007. In 2008, we lost $12 million of top line revenue, and we went down all the way to almost $30 million. And we've been building it up ever since. And we're ahead of budget for the first quarter of 2022 with a estimated revenue of 72.5 million.
Wow. How many employees do you have?
About 130, which ironically is less than we had back in 2007 when we did even less in sales. But our models changed. We're no longer a mail order business. We go through distribution. We have call center support, obviously warehouse distribution, the construction business, and everything else. But the primary business is resupplying contractors all over the world, from Australia to England to Africa, our aqua patented products and products to build ponds.
So what percentage of your business is selling products versus the installation of an actual pond?
Oh, geez. 3 million is the local market of 72 million. So whatever that is.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But that's our R&D. And Lauren, what's really cool is Aquascape has transitioned, back in the day when mail order and you could mail catalogs and everything, and people would actually look at the mail versus just get junk mail. We had a kind of a dead period in there from, right after 2008 for a while. But now with social media, we're a very, very strong driven social media company with YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok.
That's your marketing.
That is the marketing. And as the CEO, this is my 31st year in business. I would say the majority of my personal time is spent on the creation of social media.
I talk to business owners all the time, and I think marketing in general, social media in particular, are such pain points. People struggle with it so much. What have you figured out?
Well, listen, we caught lightning in the bottle back in, the late 90s when we had our mail order business. And then, of course, with the kind of the recession that happened in 2008, there also was kind of a, downturn in direct mail marketing. And until probably the last 3 or 4 years, we didn't really have a repeatable system like we do now, which is, the Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. And so now it's just a machine that just keeps growing, because the nice thing is we have unlimited content because we still build ponds. And my time spent is visiting my top customers and vlogging, which is basically the way to capture things on YouTube, vlogging their projects. And I love it because I get to travel, still my hobby, see beautiful water features, connect with the customers, visit my end consumer, the people that are actually living, with the water features. And so for me, it's a great investment of my time. And I'm a classic entrepreneur. I'm not good at managing people. So I have a president that runs the place, which is why I'm talking to you right now from Utah, because I'm living out in Utah most of the time now that we got a house out here.
They keep you out of the way. Is that the idea?
Well, when I'm in the office, yes, I really don't have a job at the office besides high-fiving everybody and doing the first job of a CEO, which is to guide and guard the company culture. But I do that more and more now from on the road and through social media, because I'm not in the office very much.
Do you need to differentiate the videos you're creating? Or can you just go to a different pond that you've installed every day and create a video and post it on multiple channels? Is that enough?
No, we do differentiate. Yeah, that's a good question. So my channel is Greg Whitstock, the Pond Guy, on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, and I'm really about the lifestyle. So I'm basically showing the beauty shots. The Team Aquascape is the construction, so it shows how we build these water features, and then we even have Ed the Pond Professor, which is the science guy, and then we have the corporate channel, which is just Aquascape Inc. So all four of those different social media channels, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, they kind of, follow the line of what the focus of the audience would be, because we kind of, sometimes we have consumers looking at it, sometimes we have contractors, sometimes architects, so they can follow whatever channels that they want to, but they each want to appeal to a specific type of audience and that are interested in a specific type of thing.
So the videos about how you actually build and construct these ponds, would that be watched primarily by do-it-yourselfers or by contractors?
Yeah, and that would be Team Aquascape. So I don't cover that on Greg Whitstock, the Pond Guy, because I do the finished beauty shots.
How do you measure the return on investment? How do you know it's working?
Well, that's a good question. There is somewhat subjective in relationship to how many total subscribers and views you get. That's one way to look at it. But the biggest thing that we have is, we're promoting, we're kind of like the Air Force, kind of doing all the national marketing, and we promote our certified Aquascapes Counter network. And people, we see the increase in monthly, click-throughs through finding a certified counter on our website. And then we hear tons of positive reinforcement from our certified Aquascapes contractors saying, hey, our phones are ringing off the hook. People are watching your vlogs and finding them. And then they're hiring us, which is, of course, the ultimate goal.
Do you see a big difference in terms of how many views your videos get, especially yours, the ones that you make specifically? Is there a big difference depending on, what type of pond it is, or whether the person you built it for is a celebrity?
Well, that we call those collaborations. So anytime we get a celebrity build, like to this day, our biggest, single video was, Shaquille O'Neal. Well, that's one of the top guys, out there from a marketing perspective. And we've shot a number of videos now and, pictures with him with his Aquascape water feature down in Georgia, at his house down in Georgia, where he's on TNT. But there's other celebrities that we do. And there's also a lot of digital influencers. So these are guys that might have aquarium channels or reptile channels or gardening channels. And when we build them a pond, obviously, we're going to get exposure to their audiences, and we see a lot more views on collaboration videos than we do just in the generic videos. But then every once in a while, Lauren, people will it'll get into the YouTube algorithm or the Facebook or Instagram algorithm, and it will go viral, just a regular post. And really on those, there is no rhyme or reason. It's just that we just happen to hit the right formula on the right day, and then got shared by the right amount of people. And then all of a sudden that video goes viral, and, it's got over 1 million views, in a week.
What impact did the pandemic have on you?
Well, this is interesting because when we were talking about setting up this call, you had predicted correctly that it would be positive for our business that specializes in, people
staying at home but wanting to get outside.
Yeah. So, 72 million will be our record year for sales. And it's because of the social media, but people are finding us, but it's also because people are investing in their properties. I think anything to do with home improvement right now, whether you're a carpenter, an electrician, a plumber, or a pond builder, I think it's positive because people are investing in their properties.
What about in terms of the manufacturing side of it? Do you make the products you sell yourself, or do you outsource that?
Yes, it's all our tools and dies in our products. Unfortunately, we cannot keep anything in stock or I shouldn't say anything, but a huge proportion of our stuff is a challenge to get. I mean, everything from raw materials to labor shortages, to just, we're just outstripping our tooling. So we've been forced to pivot a little bit in the last 6 months and bring in-house a lot of the finishing of our plastic products. If it's big and bulky, it's domestic. If it's electronic and small, it's Asia. So the factories over in Asia, I mean, they're huge. They're producing, our specified pumps with our tools and dies, and they're doing the same thing in the States. But as you know, there's a big labor crunch right now. And so we've added shifts. So we have, shifts that work before work, after work, so we got 3 shifts going just to finish the tooling of the products that come in, just on the finishing products. But, one of my favorite quotes, Lauren, is all businesses is fixing problems. And these are good problems to have where we barely can keep up with demand.
Have you tried to bring back some of the manufacturing in Asia to this country just to avoid the shipping issues?
well, it's not just the shipping, with a 25% surcharge. There really aren't factories for their domestic pump manufacturers currently still don't exist. Right now, they're looking at India and Vietnam to replace China with the tariffs, but there's not real domestic manufacturing going on of those small electronic type things like that in the States. So basically, the only thing that we produce, which is the majority of our products from a dollar standpoint, are our filters, the plastics, the rubbers, the liners of the ponds. All that stuff is manufactured domestically. But then there's raw material shortages, and so like I said, all businesses is fixing problems. If it's not one thing, it's another.
But if I remember from Bo Burlingham's story, I think one of the things that you built the business on was the notion that you never wanted to have back order problems. Am I right?
You're a very good memory. We used to fly our flag at half mast if we didn't have the product in stock. Two things have changed with that. One, we are no longer directly supplying the customers out there. It's almost exclusively through distribution. So hopefully the distributors always.
What does that mean? Who do you sell to then?
You're talking about wholesale places that landscape contractors would buy products, whether they're rock yards or irrigation houses. Places where a contractor in a local market would go to buy wholesale materials. So we have over 500 distribution points, just in America alone that have our products in stock. So sometimes those products are out of stock there and we have to resupply them. But our goal is to always have our products in the marketplace. When we sold direct and we had direct to contractor sales, we would fly the flag at half mast if we were out of a product. We don't have the ability to do that anymore because we don't have the optics to the end consumer because we're going through distribution. And our goal is just to keep the product line filled up for our customers because, as you would probably expect, when a contractor needs a product, he's not ordering it a month in advance. He needs it now.
Right. So one of the really fascinating things about Bo's story way back when was that you figured out that for your businesses to succeed, you had to help lots of other businesses succeed. You were selling your products to contractors who, if they couldn't make a profit installing one of your pools with your products, they weren't going to succeed and you weren't going to succeed. So you started teaching them, running seminars around the country, doing whatever you could to make sure that they not only, knew the mechanics of how to install the pool, but knew how to do it and turn a profit. Has that gone away? Do you not have to do that anymore?
Oh, no, we are. Of course, it's a different world now. We have the Aquascape University, online so people could get, electronic, communication. We have Pondemonium every year. So people come in from all over the world for Pondemonium. We've been virtual the last 2 years. We're excited in August of this year to be live in person again.
Tell us what Pondemonium is.
Pondemonium is basically a tribal gathering of contractors and retailers from all over the world that would come and make the pilgrimage to, Chicagoland where we're at. And basically, this is where the seminars get taught, from everything from how to build a pond to how to do your back end office and financials and everything else. So our basic philosophy was, when you purchase from Aquascape, it's a franchise system without a franchise fee. So it's everything that would go to running a successful business. And we use the blueprint and the model of our $3 million local market construction, maintenance, and retail stores for people to pattern themselves off of. So we're constantly educating and updating on that, not just through the social things, but through, back end logistics like, a website for, a portal for them to go on and do their e-learning, and then, events like Pondemonium.
So even though you're selling to distributors now, you ultimately do feel as though your business depends on the success of those contractors.
Oh, the distributors I'm hands off on. They basically selling our nuts and bolts, and I'm dealing directly with the contractors, the retailers, and the consumers out there that are carrying our products and buying our products and living the Aquascape lifestyle. So 1% of my energies is around distribution because it's just basically fulfillment. 99 point something percent of my energies is around creating a demand for my product, educating the customers that are doing it to do it properly. My goal is to create demand for my products and then success for the people that are selling them.
I've never heard anybody refer to a franchise business without the franchise fee before. Mm-hmm. It sounds like an oxymoron. It sounds like a failed business. I mean, why would you want to have a franchise system without the fee and presumably without the contracts guaranteeing that people are going to pay you? You're providing the education without the certainty that somebody is actually going to use your product.
That's correct.
How does that work?
Technically, they could take all of the benefits of us teaching them and training them and everything else and buy a competitor's product. But then you have a little thing called brand. When I started this industry, Lauren, there really was no water feature industry. People were, of course, building concrete ponds and going to Home Depot and going to spa stores and jimmy rigging up filter systems for a pond. But when I started Aquascape, there was no manufacturer of professional grade pond equipment out there. So we not only created the product, but we showed them the process to install our system. And it's 20 products and 20 steps, whether it's a fountainscape or a pond or a pondless waterfall, whatever these decorative water features are that we're installing, there's a methodology behind it. So when they buy you can technically swap our filters for someone else's filters, but there's no training, there's no education behind that because they're not actually installing the product. So when I say Aquascape is the only manufacturer of water feature equipment in the world that has a full-time R&D department building and designing and retailing water features and maintaining them, we truly are. So really 95 of the top 100 water feature builders in the world are using Aquascape systems.
Wow. So, it seems obvious today that this has worked, but the notion when you first tried it of providing that education and not requiring somebody to pay you a franchise fee or lock in, the purchases through a contract, Did you have doubts about whether that would work? What gave you the confidence to create that business model?
In 1994, I spent all of my profits from 1993, which was at the time $50,000, and invested with a company out of Indiana called FranCorp, which was basically a franchise a company that helps you set your franchise up. And I spent all my money, and then I went to I said, okay, I'm going to have to make my very first sale successful because I need to show that this model is replicatable. So I went to Columbus, Ohio, where I had relationships, having graduated from that school. And I remember talking to a landscape contractor. I talked to a few of them, and I narrowed it down to one guy that I thought would be the fairly large business, couple $1 million company that would be a good representative for Aquascape as our first franchisee. And then I told him, listen, this cost me $50,000 to get these 2 giant binders, which are systems, operations, procedures, how to run a Aquascape franchise system. Here's your zip codes that I would give you through this acquisition. And instead of charging you $100,000 or even $50,000, which is my cost, I'm going to charge you $25,000, which will, and then you're going to get me to make sure that your model's successful because I want to be able to use you as a poster child for other franchisees. And he said, great, you got a deal. And I went to shake his hand. His name was Rick. And before I could pull it away, he goes, that does include your F-150 truck too, doesn't it? And Lauren, I'm telling you, in a split second, I realized right then and there that my idea of taking my unique knowledge, my patented products, and selling limited franchises based on, area codes, zip codes, I would not be able to successful because contractors don't have $25, $50, let alone $100,000 sitting in their pocket, ready to burn a hole in it, waiting for a franchise opportunity. And so I remember I've always had a lot of coaches in my life. And I went back to a guy who at the time was a partner at Arthur Andersen on the consulting side of the business, not the accounting side, which is now Accenture. And he said to me, Lauren, he said, the one thing that no entrepreneur, nobody that's pissed off wants to hear. And I told him my entire idea has failed. These guys don't have this kind of money sitting around. I wasted a year of my life and all my profits. And he goes, this will be a great lesson. There's something going to come out of this. And I was pissed off. I did not want to hear that. And of course, his name was Lance Dickinson. He was correct because within 6 months, I had retooled the entire thing and said, if I can't sell it with exclusivities of territories, I'll just give it away. And hopefully they'll buy my products. Now, at the time, nobody was manufacturing professional grade products. But that's always my philosophy is I'll give it away and hopefully they'll buy it because I can provide so much added value. And so far, so good. Like I said, 95 of the top 100 pond builders are with Aquascape.
And that contractor, Rick, I mean, he must have had a truck, right?
He had lots of trucks. He had a fleet of trucks. And we've since, we haven't, I wouldn't say we've stayed in touch, but we've since seen each other since then. And he kicks himself. He goes, man, I should have got that. That would have been a good deal. But I'm like, I'm glad it didn't, because if I would have sold him a franchise, it wouldn't have taken me down. Failure is a great teacher, of course, just like, my friend from Arthur Andersen told me. And instead of taking that concept and trying to push a boulder up a hill and sell individual franchises, I gave it away and then let the same people in the same market, let the rising cream to the crop with whoever's going to be successful in that market. And that's exactly how it works to this day. And I call it a tribe. I'll have multiple certified aquascape hunters in a market, and they end up helping each other because a pond done right and a customer served right is going to grow the pie versus a pond done wrong and a customer served wrong. So certified aquascape hunters, I have this great communal tribe of people that are all helping each other succeed in business, because if the next guy's having success, then it's going to just grow the pie and the awareness for what it is that we do with decorative water features.
I know a lot of the education that you provided to contractors focused on the mechanics of building the pond. I know you had I think a 20-step process that you took people through, but it was also focused on doing things as efficiently as possible so that if you can do it in one day, your profits are a lot better than if you do it in 2 days. Has that changed, or are you still providing that kind of support to contractors?
Great questions. Back in the day, I used to travel to, 60 cities every winter. I'd do 5 cities one week, 4 the next, and just crash for 3 days, traveling around doing my dog and pony show. I don't do that anymore. Now they come to me. We have the Aquascape Academy online. We also have the Aquascape Academy in person. And I am sitting there, Lauren, 31 years after I started this business, and I'm telling them the exact same things I told them 30 years ago with the 20 products and the 20 steps, and don't give a customer what they ask for, give them what they want, and nothing has changed.
Wait, what does that mean? Don't give them what they ask for, give them what they want.
It's one of my favorite fit phrases, because when a customer asks you as a professional that's coming to your house for something, what they're really asking you for is your opinion. And if you give the customer what they ask for, a 5-foot-high waterfall in a flat backyard, because that's what they ask for, more times than not, it's going to look like a volcano spewing lava instead of a natural waterfall. So what we say is, well, ma'am, we actually don't recommend going above 24 inches in a flat backyard, because the slope over angle will look out of scale. And every time you say this and you show them the pictures and you're presenting yourself as a professional, they just say, okay, and they go with you. But if you don't have that confidence, that training, that understanding of things, and the customer says they want a 5-foot-high waterfall in the flat backyard, and you build it and it leaks and it looks like a volcano spewing lava, and the customer's not happy, then it's your butt in the sling. So the first rule of success with water features: don't give a customer what they ask for, give them what they want.
You could make an argument that you're kind of the Henry Ford of the pond industry, right? You figured out how to do this in a way that could be repeated and, turn it into an industrial solution. But you've had challenges along the way. You mentioned one of them from the Inc. article, and that was the relationship with your father, who helped you get off the ground, who ran the business with you. But then you guys had a falling out, and he actually went off and started a competing business at one point. How did that end up?
Well, would we all love to have a crystal ball? We always think God has a sense of humor. But my dad was an engineer. He had a great skill set. But I really believe that in the vision, which is still too strong to this day, which is about the lifestyle, living the aquascape lifestyle. So where my dad focused on the engineering and the technical specifications of the water features, I focused on the living the lifestyle. I said, listen, our customers aren't going to want to putz around with their filters. They're going to want a low maintenance ecosystem water feature that they can have a glass of wine or a beer and sit with at the end of the day, or a cup of coffee in the morning reading the paper. And that was really the successful winning approach. So he went off, tried to really spend the time focused on the design of the engineering of the product, where I focused on the living of the lifestyle that, of course, happened to have a product as well. The push and the angle was not the product. The push and the angle was the lifestyle. So for 9 years, really didn't talk. That Inc. article, that came out really kind of exposed that relationship. But, that article came out in 2003. And in 2006, my dad called me and said, I'm ready to sell and join your team again. So in 2006, we ended up purchasing his business, and my dad came back into the business. We put him exactly where he should have always been, which is well needed in a company. And he was on the engineering side of the business. And he did that for a couple of years, and then went down to Florida, where he could play golf more and enjoy the weather. And he was bored down there. So he started Pond Father Water Features. And to this day, as a 77-year-old guy, he's still out there building ponds down in Florida.
Oh, that's amazing. And your relationship was repaired?
100%. We do not talk business. We talk Buckeye football and photography. Yeah, our relationship is great today. Thank you.
That's great. I'm really glad to hear that. Talking about challenges, you had your heart set on building a $100 million company. And my recollection is that you kind of got ahead of yourself a little bit and got overextended. Did that coincide with the recession period?
Oh, 100%. This is where you also have a guy that has a sense of humor type of a thing that I said earlier, because everything I touched turned to gold for the first 16 years. And then year 17, which was, 2018, I did the exact same things I did in year 16, and I had $12 million left to show for it because the world changed. And I'm going to tell you, the hardest thing was not just, the downfall of the sales, revenue back in 2018.
Do you mean 2008?
I mean, 2008, that's what I mean. But it was, 10 years, I would almost say, afterwards, where we didn't really have a replicatable machine from a marketing standpoint, because by that time, mail order had been done, until social media really started taking off again and things started growing again. So it's just been the last few years. I had about a 10-year window where it was just kind of, single digit growth there. And now all of a sudden it's back to double digits again.
I think you first started to struggle before the recession hit. Is that right?
No, 2006, sales were 59 million. 2007, they were 59. So they was flat. So I had always had double digit growth for the first, 15 years. And then, 16th year is flat. And then 17th year was 2008 when everything crashed.
But you had a period where I think you brought on some new people and the culture changed a little bit.
The biggest mistake that I made was I had only managed a company that had double digit growth. And so when things, evened out in 2007, and then, the wheels fell off the bus in 2008, I brought in a turnaround guy, and the turnaround guy had no connection to the teammates at Aquascape. I was unsure of myself. At the time, I would have been a 38-year-old kid. And I didn't realize that, I didn't realize the importance of culture and team, even though I thought I did. And we brought an outsider in, and he didn't know the people, and he didn't, and he was, chainsaw Al Dunlap or whatever you would call it. And he lasted about a year and a half. And I saw what was happening to my team, and I met him for breakfast, and I let him go on the spot. And I've never looked back since then. I promoted my controller, who became my CFO, and she's been my president now. She's been with me for over 20 years, and she was the one that kind of financially guided us through the economic downfall. And she runs the show today. The managers report to her, but most of my management team, Lauren, went through that period with me. So we got a pretty strong management team that's been there 20 plus years.
You referred to him as a turnaround guy. What did you think was the problem he had to solve when you brought him in?
I had been used to managing a business that had double-digit growth that all of a sudden went flat, and then the wheels fell off, and I didn't have the self-confidence nor the know-how to kind of manage the financial crisis. But my CFO, like I said, stepped up to the plate, which is why eventually she replaced him quite soon after that in 2010 as the president. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a marketer. I'm a promoter. I'm a hobbyist, but now I believe I have that skill set added to my repertoire because I went through it. And certainly the team has that skill set because we've been through it. So we managed the downturn. We managed the grind, which was very difficult, 10 years of kind of flat sales. And now we're enjoying the upside again, knowing that behind every mountaintop, there's a valley.
Tell me about the grind. How did that affect you? How frustrating was it that you couldn't get back to the double-digit growth for 10 years?
I was scared in 2008. And then I was frustrated, from 10 through, 18 or whatever. And it was because, we were doing everything we could, but I didn't have a formula for bringing on new customers. Now we're beating them away with a stick because, we just have this incredible presence on social media, and people are finding us, and people are spending money and investing in their properties. So the bottom line is we have a replicatable marketing system, and we also have the demand for our products again that was a little bit lulled when, the economic downturn, and then people weren't investing in their properties like they are today.
How did you figure out the formula initially on social media? I mean, it's not like social media didn't exist before 2018.
Well, I guess really because it's kind of the age of the influencers. So I would say in the last 5 years, Lauren, is when digital influencers really started to pop up in big, masses. I mean, they had something that I wanted, which was eyeballs. I had something which they wanted, which was water features, and I would exchange my water features for their eyeballs. And that exposure, I mean, I remember the first time I built a pond for Logan, back in, the end of 2017, I gained 10,000 subscribers overnight.
So you kind of fell into it. It wasn't a strategy initially. You just built a pond for the right person.
Well, I built a pond for the right person. Then I kept building ponds for the right people.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't come up with a strategy to say this would be, but I said vlogging is big. So it was really the vlogging, and then the offshoots of the vlogging were the Instagram and the TikTok and the Facebook. But kind of one hand washes the other. And, in the last month, I've gained over 500,000 new followers.
just in the last month.
In the last month. So I took all my library of content on my YouTube channels, which I had done, I've now done over 1,000 vlogs between those three channels, and I packaged it in a deal and sold it to a third party who then repurposes it on Facebook. And they've been going gang fires in the last, that only happened a month ago. And in the last month, I've gained 500,000 followers with past content, YouTube content edited for Facebook.
I've never heard of that. The idea of selling content that's been up for a while to a third party who repackages it.
They edit it. So if I have a 10 to 12 minute video on YouTube, it'll be a 3 to 5 minute video on Facebook. They put ads on it, or they sell to advertisers.
That's how they make their money.
That's how they make their money. And then I really don't, any money that comes from ad revenue is just icing on the cake. Of course, the cake for me is eyeballs to our content, which drives demand for our product.
And that's their business. They do this for other people as well, obviously.
Yes, that is their business. Yeah, it's a firm out of France that has worldwide offices, and most YouTubers don't have a presence on Facebook because they tend to be younger, and it's not just Facebook. It could be Snapchat, Instagram.
And did you find them, or did they find you?
This is kind of funny. I literally dropped my business card in at a conference, and they kept calling me, and I thought, whatever. And then I had a buddy that I had built upon for another influencer with 3 million followers on YouTube sign up with them, and he goes, "You got to look into Jelly Smack," and that's the name of the company. So because he had such success, I basically returned an email from a guy that's soliciting me from a trade show. And when we finally went live, I mean, it was we sold it for $200,000 our content. And now when it went live, I'm winning because I'm getting new eyeballs, and they're winning because they're getting ad revenue.
That's really interesting.
This is why content is so important too, because it's evergreen marketing. A pond that I built or videotaped 5 years ago, someone's going to find for the first time this year, and that past work is going to pay dividends now.
So what's your thinking today? There was a time when you were convinced that you were going to be, you're going to hit $100 million in annual revenue pretty soon, and that was an important goal to you.
Yes.
A lot of time has passed. It hasn't happened yet. It sounds like it's going to happen. Is that still a meaningful goal to you? Do you care?
I do. I wouldn't say it's as meaningful, but I know that the potential is there, and that was always what it was. It wasn't about the dollar figure. It was like about the potential. And by the way, before $100 million came, I said, this is a $50 million business. So when I started my idea to give away franchises, my first business plan was this could be a $50 million business. It quickly rose. I surpassed that. And so my next milestone was $100 million. If I could go back in time, and I would never want to go through the experiences, the valleys that I went through, but I never really appreciated. In fact, when I did 59 million, Lauren, in sales back in 06 and 07, I was pissed off I didn't do 60, right? And now when the economic downturn happened and then the grind happened, I was just appreciative that I still had a business. I started this business, was able to do, $59 million because of my love for turtles in my backyard pond. I mean, how cool is that? And I didn't appreciate that when I had done that. I thought, of course this is what happened. And then when I almost lost it, that's when I appreciated what, I actually had. And so I'm never going to lose that appreciation, whether I'm doing 72 million or 100 million. The number was always more about the potential of what it can do. And I still believe that strongly. It's easily $100 million business, especially internationally. But the downturn made me appreciate what I had, and I didn't appreciate it before.
I bet you end up talking to young entrepreneurs who remind you of yourself, who have that drive to hit a big, ambitious goal. Do you share this with them?
So the majority of entrepreneurs that I talk to are people that want to have a profession about what I've done, in this industry. And so this is where, of course, I give them the techniques about not giving a customer what they ask for, give them what they want, and such like that. But what I've said for a long time, and this is 2008. We're talking about that. I went through this. Focus your energies on helping other people get what they want. If you can help other people get what they want, you get what you want. So I want my customers to have successful businesses, which means you don't put a 5-foot-high waterfall in a flat backyard. If I can help them be profitable with their business because they understand their financials, if I can help them succeed, then my business will be successful. And so I share a lot with aspiring entrepreneurs. If I'm talking to a business class at a university, stop focusing on what you can get Start focusing on what you can give. And if you give enough, get other people get what they want, then you too will get what you want.
So the last thing I want to ask you about, I don't know if you remember this, but we did a panel discussion at an Inc. 500. I want to guess it was in Savannah, but I could be wrong about that.
Mm-hmm. I remember Savannah.
It was a discussion about what entrepreneurs should do with their money if they manage to take some money off the table. And if they are fortunate enough to be able to invest some money elsewhere and not just in their business. And if I recall correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at the time you said that you had taken some money off the table and you were putting every last penny of it into TiVo stock.
Oh my God, you are hilarious.
Am I right?
You are 100% right. I took my entire 401k, which whatever, I don't remember what it was at the time. I was so smitten by the brand new technology TiVo, which is like basically a DVR today. You know, they were the pioneers and everybody just knocked off their software. I took my entire 401k, quote unquote, retirement plan and put that 100% into TiVo stock, which was not the wisest thing, but it wasn't also a huge amount of money at the time. But yes, I
Did that work? I mean, they got bought or something.
Well, I could tell you it's probably a break even because my wife went behind me and diversified our portfolio. Fortunately,
I love that.
She handles the money, Lauren, to this day. She runs the household and she handles the money. Fortunately, I've been able to pull some money out. We bought a second home out in Park City, Utah. I'm spending most of my time traveling from there, but I'm 51 years old. I can't imagine not doing this at 61, 71, or even 81. I'm just having so much fun.
Greg Wittstock, thank you so much for taking this time. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Hey, good reconnecting, buddy, and thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Wait, don't leave yet. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like the 21 Hats owners to address, send it to me by replying to your morning report or by email at lauren@21hats.com. That's LOREN@21hats.com. Do it now before you forget. And don't be afraid to tell Jay what you really think. He can take it. And if you got something out of this conversation, help us reach more business owners. Tell a friend. Subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to the Morning Report at 21hats.com. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Okay, now you can leave. Thanks for listening, everyone.